Welcome to my one-credit playthrough of Jim Power, The Lost Dimension in 3D. This is the console killer. And I've been wanting to do a commentary for this video for a while. I beat it a few years ago, so I will be going off memory for a lot of this, but I'll try to explain how I practiced it and put it together and all the details that I can remember. And there will be some moments of silence when there's not much to say. And I'll probably explain more of the process in the second level, because that level is very easy and there's not much to it. So I'll try to explain everything as it happens on screen and try to break it down. So yeah, basically when I beat this game, it took me 6 days to beat. I had played it many years ago in the past and got to the semi-final. Well, actually, the boss right before the final level, the 6th level boss. I never made it to the 7th level. Basically, that was just with playing the game again and again and again, the old style, not being able to practice things efficiently. I may have used the level select a little bit to practice some of the later levels. I think I may have. But I didn't have save or load states or anything, because that was on the original console. The reason I got this game as a kid was because EGM rated it as the #1 hardest game pretty much of all time, which, it was way overhyped. I mean, there's games that are much harder because they play like shit. I mean, this game, it's a mediocre game, but that's overly difficult, but it has very tight control, so you can't blame the control. So basically it's just a matter of learning the game. It's just a very trial and error heavy game. Not to the extent of something like Battletoads, though Battletoads is an insane amount of trial and error, even more so than this. And what makes that game really undesirable for me, and why I never really worked on it too much, is because the control is just so bad to me. I just hate the control, and it's hard to gauge the depth when you're moving in that game. I find it strange, but I'm sure, if I spent enough time on it, I could learn it. It's just, it's a game that I really hate to play. There's a lot that I appreciate about that game. I mean, the music, the visuals, there's a lot of cool things. I like the multi-genre approach, which this has some of that as well. But I just don't like the game. But yeah, so basically, I guess I haven't talked about this level yet, so I'll try not to ramble too much. This is one of the walking levels, which there's several of these walking levels in the game. And for these levels, you just want to move really, inch your way through the screen and constantly fire. Because unless you have it completely memorized, shit is always just rushing in and killing you in one hit. So, you want to move very slow, keep shooting. And obviously that's not going to be enough. You're going to have to practice the levels, which I'll explain more about how I practiced everything. But I'll save that for the second level when I have more time to talk about that. But yeah, so basically in these mini-bosses, all the bosses in the game are extremely easy, which is kind of strange for how hard the game is. But, the bosses are very easy. They shouldn't take much practice. As you can see, it's very easy. The game is strange in the sense that it's a port of the Amiga version, but it's a lot faster. It's really fucking spastic compared to the Amiga version. And my guess was maybe that when they transferred it from like a PAL game to an NTSC game, since I guess the refresh rates are different on those type of TVs, that maybe the game ended up being sped up, and they didn't slow it down. I'm not sure. That was just a guess. But, I don't really know shit about programming. I was just guessing. But, yeah, so the game is very spastic, very fast moving. So, it's better to move slow on the walking stages, At least on these stages you can control the pace of the level. You don't want to take too long because you do run out of time, but you get these little clocks here, and that'll add to your timer, so that helps. And, yeah, I mean, and aside from that, you would just have to learn some of the obstacles. If there's obstacles that do give you trouble, those are the ones that you want to save state on and practice, maybe practice them 10 or 20 times into a row, until you get comfortable enough where, when you get back to that part, there's a higher chance that you're going to get it on your first try. Because you really don't want to burn lives in this game, you really want to live as long as you can. You do get a good amount of 1-ups. That's how I was able to beat this on one continue. I never used a continue. And I wasn't doing that intentionally. I just kind of over-practiced the game, playing it for 6 days with save and load states, basically, to practice the whole game. And I had to go back because I forgot parts that I practiced since it took so long, so I had to go back and re-practice areas. Yeah, and I beat this a few years ago, so, I try to remember what I can. It was probably over 2 years ago now. But I didn't know how to add commentary to videos. I just learned how to do that. Just got a mic. So, yeah, so basically, yeah, you just want to break down all these parts. You want to save and load state on any part that you think, that's why I recommend playing this on an emulator. But you want to save on any part that's giving you any kind of trouble that you think might be troublesome. Just save and practice that part 10 or 20 times, It's going to be a trial and error, and you're going to have to burn it into your brain to really get it down. I think that's really the only way to play this game, and beat it. Because, if you forget little things, it's the little things you forget that end up wasting all your lives. So that, you gotta try to have it down as good as you can. Because you're not going to really be able to to improvise too much in this game if you don't know what's coming up. You're just going to get killed. You don't have a lot of time to react to a lot of the parts. That's a tricky part. That part's a little tricky. I guess I fucked up on that. I also fuck up on some easy parts later on. Well, that are not that. They shouldn't be that hard because it was because I didn't practice them enough. So I fucked myself over with that. But I still managed to, despite some major fuck ups later, I did manage to beat it on 1 credit. So that was cool. The only difference between easy, normal, and hard modes are the amount of lives you start with. So I guess technically my run was the equivalent of maybe beating it on hard with maybe 2 lives left or something like that. Because I would have earned those extra lives, by getting the 1-ups and things like that. So on, I guess I started on easy. I think you start with 4 lives on easy. So if you do waste to continue, you'll start with 4 lives. But the thing is, you only get 3 continues. So, and you really don't want to start at a level with the default 4 lives. That's kind of shitty because then, you lose those 4 lives. It's good to stockpile as many lives as you can. This is a tough part. This part can be tough to time. I was, even in the past, able to get it fairly, consistently, but not always. It's a tough part. That's why I'm spending time here trying to contemplate, what to do. It's a little tricky. But once you get to that other side, it's easy. I don't know why I did that. Oh, I guess, yeah, that's the only way to get up there. I forgot, yeah. So now this is not actually the second level. This is actually the boss of the first level. They're split up into little sections. And if you do lose all your lives on the boss, you may start at it with your continue, but I'm not sure. But you really don't want to fuck up on these bosses. These are the easier parts of the game. So, you want to practice these parts. Make sure you got them down. You really don't want to drain lives on this bullshit. I mean, they can be a little tricky at first, but, once you understand what to do, it's pretty fucking easy. It's really it's the easiest part of the game. These bosses are easier than most bosses in normal games of the time period, so it's kind of a strange contrast to how hard the rest of the game is. So the first level, definitely a very hard level, but it gets a lot harder. So, you'll really have to learn the later levels. The shooter levels are the hardest levels, with the side-scrolling spaceship shooter levels, which I believe there's 2 of those. Levels 3 and level 6 are 2 of the hardest levels, and level 7 is probably the hardest level. 6 is up there too. 6 and 7 are very hard, even for this game. So, so after this, the next level is very easy. Basically, all you have to do for the next level is check the map and make sure you gotta see all the gates on the map. There's gonna be a few gates on the map. You just have to look and see how many gates there are, and then count how many keys are on the map. Just make sure you have the keys you need for each gate, otherwise you can fuck yourself over. And I think you can fuck up the level to where you have to commit suicide and waste a continue or something if you waste the keys. So just make sure, it's just you got to check the map, and once you know it, you're good to go on this level. I didn't memorize this shit because I didn't practice this level when I was practicing to beat the game. I didn't practice the level because I knew that I just needed to know about the keys on the map. I could just check that when I got here. So that's what I ended up doing. But don't get me wrong, this level's not really that easy. It's easy for this game. It's tricky because the movements are very precise, and you have to turn with the left and right bumpers, right? So it's a strange control. It's like Contra 3 for the Super Nintendo. It's a strange control scheme, and it's very precise. There's parts where you gotta dodge these little bullets that come out. They're very annoying, but that's really all there is to this level. You know, counting the keys in the gates. You'll get a few one-ups, and if you follow what I'm doing here, you'll get the general idea of what to do on this level. You know, this level was just always very monotonous and boring because it takes long and there's not really much to it. But it's also stressful because, you know, it's very easy to inch yourself the wrong way and hit into something. So it's an annoying level, but it's, you know, it's really a place to get one-ups more than a place to lose lives. You know, you should be accumulating some lives in this level to use later. Because for the next stage, you're going to want to have those lives, because the next stage is a very hard shooter level. It's the first of the side-scrolling shooter levels. So that's one that's going to be one that you want to practice heavily and really memorize it, you know, because if you try to just react, you'll get annihilated on that level. So you really have to memorize that. And that holds true to a lot of the game, but the shooters really, because the shooters, you know, you can't move the screen at your own pace. You know, the screen moves for you, so you have to be ready for whatever comes up. But yeah, basically, I want to do a tutorial video more in depth about doing the save and load state practice. Like, I would actually like to film, you know, with commentary, maybe a few-part series of me actually beating a game that I'm not familiar with, a hard game that I'm not familiar with, and going through and showing how much practice I do exactly on each part before I'm confident enough to move on. And then, you know, I'll move on to the next part. And then eventually, once I've practiced through the game one time, I can usually beat a game on my 1 to 3rd attempt. And by attempt, I mean exhausting all lives and continues as one attempt. So this game, I believe I got it on the 3rd, possibly the 3rd attempt, full attempt after practicing through the entire game. But I did have to go back and practice parts over because I forgot them. Like stage 6, I pretty much forgot. By the time I practiced through the game, I forgot levels 3 and 6 pretty much. So I had to like relearn those, which was a pain in the ass. But yeah, I dragged it out way too long. I mean, I was using 2 different controllers, which wasn't a good idea. I started off actually playing this game with a fucking joystick, and I practiced most of the game with a joystick. And it was a great joystick. It's a Hori joystick. It's, you know, very precise, extremely precise. Not like the old arcade joysticks. These new joysticks are amazing that they have now. They're like, they can be pretty much as good as a pad. They're you know, incredibly good. But I can always play better with a pad. You know, I'm still better with a pad, but I've gotten quite good with a joystick. I mean, to get through most of this game with a joystick is, you know, is being pretty competent with a joystick. So I've gotten pretty good with that, and I've beaten a lot of hard arcade games with the joystick. The reason I switched to a joystick for a while is because as a weightlifter, I have a lot of nerve damage, so my hands were pretty inflamed for a while, carpal tunnel and, you know, neck nerve impingement, all kinds of shit. So, you know, basically my hands would numb out and I couldn't feel the controller. So, to play these old games that use a pad, I pretty much had to use a joystick because then I could play fine. I could play for hours on that. And, you know, I needed hours of time, like, especially for the kind of games I play, especially a game like this. I mean, this was a lot of time. In those 6 days, I mean, I played it heavily in those 6 days. You know, at least several hours a day. I'm not sure how many, but some of them were very long sessions. You know, I was pretty much grinding the game out. So, yeah, I used the joystick for most of it, but then near the end, you know, I wanted more precision, so I switched over to a pad. And then I was playing a lot better, and I also switched over to a small monitor on my desk. And the combination of using the pad and the smaller monitor, you know, made it much easier for me because I think the small monitor, you know, you can see everything. I mean, when you're playing on a 55-inch TV, now I have a 65, but at the time I had a 55 Panasonic plasma TV, and, you know, I sit 5 feet from it. And when you're playing on that, you know, you can't really see everything on the screen at once. You have to turn your head, and that can get you killed. So when I switched over to the smaller monitor and the Saturn pad, you know, I was really doing better. But so, you know, that kind of messed me up too because I practiced all these parts on a stick. So, you know, it's kind of different to switch over from one control input to another. So, you know, there were some things that probably slowed it down for me. I probably could have done it sooner, and I probably over practiced, you know, some of the easier parts. there were some harder parts that I didn't practice enough, which you'll see later. But, yeah, you know, so I'll try to break that down more in a separate video where I show, like, the entire process. I think that's probably what I'll end up doing. And I'll try to point out parts that gave me trouble that I practiced a lot, if I can remember, you know, which ones they were. But yeah, like I said, there's not much to say about this level. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty much, like I said, just knowing how many keys. Those electric currents are the gates. So you got to kind of count the keys in the gates. And after you've played this game enough times, you know, you'll pretty much, you'll have a general idea. You know, you probably won't memorize the whole layout, because I didn't memorize this level at all. But, you know, you'll know how to get through it after doing it a number of times. It's probably the easiest level in the game. There's another level that's very easy relatively. It's almost like a bonus stage where you drive this vehicle around, and you can get a lot of one-ups if you do well on it. So there are some opportunities to get a lot of lives. And the game does give you a lot of one-ups, so it's generous in that regard. But you really can't fuck up that much, because you'll end up wasting the continue. You see here I have 9 lives already, so I'm at least 9 lives. I may have more because it doesn't show if you get more than 9 lives. But it does count. It just won't show until it starts counting back down again, you know, below 9. But yeah, so you know, the next level is a tough one. That whole level needs to be practiced, you know. What I did with that level pretty much was, I may have practiced sections of that level, but the main thing I did was, I would just save state at the beginning of the 3rd level, and I would make sure that I had it so that I only had 4 lives to beat the level on, right? Because if you lose a continue, you're going to be down to 4 lives. So that was also, yeah, that's another thing I should mention. When I was practicing, what I would first do a lot of times, I practice a level in segments, right? So I would practice the hard parts that I thought might give me trouble. I would save state before a hard part, practice it maybe, you know, 5 to 20 times, depending how, you know, when I was confident with the part. And, you know, once I was confident with the part, I would, you know, I would practice all the segments in the level. Then I would go, and I'd save state before, you know, I'd save state at the beginning of a level with only 4 lives, the default number of lives. Because you can't rely on the fact that you're going to get there with an overstock of lives. You know, you just don't know if you're going to get there like that. So I wanted to learn the levels on the default lives. So I would save it with the default lives, and then I would go through the entire level and try to beat that maybe 3 times in a row. I figured if I could beat a level 3 times in a row, you know, on the default number of lives, I was pretty confident that was going to hold up well on my full playthrough. So, so that kind of, yeah, that was kind of the level of practice that I did. That's pretty much what I did. And you know, it definitely worked. But I did have to go back and re-practice some shit, as I said. But yeah, so you know, when practicing the levels, I'd recommend that you always, you know, if you're going to do a full run through the level, make sure you do it with only 4 lives, because you know, otherwise you won't be, you know, you're not going to be good enough to do it. If you get to a level with only 4 lives, you're going to be fucked, you know, if you haven't practiced it before. So yeah, so that covers. I think that covers pretty much all the basics. If I think of anything else, I'll mention it. So I guess it took almost 20 minutes just to cover the basics of the practice. But yeah, I mean, it's really not too complicated as far as the practice goes. You just want to be thorough, you know what I mean? Because it will fuck you over if you're not thorough. You'll die on stupid shit. Like those stupid bullets, you know, those are really easy to die on. I didn't practice them much, but they're easier to die on than you would think. Because everything is one-hit death in the game. You know, so you know, you just got to be careful. And you know, it may seem like you're going in circles for a while, but if you practice the game and break it down and you just keep practicing it, it's a kind of game that if you're gonna commit to beating this game, I would recommend that you play it every day, even if it's only an hour a day, whatever it is. I mean, it's better to do a few hours a day because you end up forgetting shit. You can't forget those little things, or you know, it'd be very hard to beat the game when you forget shit. So, but you know, it'd be good if you can put in time every day. You don't want to start doing other games or working on other shit. You know, you want to play this like daily, so you can stay as fresh as possible. and just keep at it. You know, eventually you'll just get better and better. You know, you may not do it in 6 days, or you may not do it real fast, but you know, if you want to beat the game and you just keep at it, you will learn the game. Because, you know, by using saves and load states, you know, you're doing the most efficient practice you can do. You know what I mean? It's not like playing the game in the old style. You have a huge advantage because you can really master each part that you have trouble with. You don't have to waste your time on shit that you already have mastered. And that's why I use save and load states. It's really opened up these old games for me. And now I can blast through, you know, most games in a day or two. You know, of playing a few hours or whatever. I can, you know, like Contra and Super C for NES, I killed those off really fast using the save and load state techniques. I mean, you know, they were easy. You know what I mean? They were I guess you could say moderate games. I wouldn't say they're easy games, but they went down pretty damn easy. So the more you do this technique, you know, just it's going to carry over. And if you beat a game like this, you're going to be destroying all kinds of games. Because if you can beat this, you know, you're going to be beating. I mean, this is definitely among the harder of the older games. And the older games are very hard, as you know. You know, if you're familiar with them. And this is up there. As far as legit games with you know, tight control, this is definitely up there. When you start looking at games that have horrible fucking control and, you know, horrible hit detection and all this other bad programming and all kind of bullshit, well, you know, then Jim Power's probably not even that hard at that point. You know what I mean? But when I talk about difficult games, I'm usually talking about, you know, legit games with, you know, a good control. They don't have to be good games. Like, to me, this is not a good game. I don't like this game at all. And I just, it was just a game that I had for years that I wanted to beat. You know, I got it cheap when I was young, and it was like this target in my mind. I always wanted to beat it because it was supposed to be so hard, so I saw it as a challenge. But yeah, I don't like the game. You know, I really don't like the game. I mean, I think it's a mediocre game. It does have some cool things in it, you know. I'm not saying it doesn't. The music is good, the visuals, you know, but it's just the game. It's like, oh, you know, it's definitely overly difficult. It's not really that much of a fun game to play. I don't, you know, to me anyway. But yeah, now this level, this is where you have to start. You know, you really have to memorize this level entirely, you know, for the most part, because, you know, you really don't want to fuck up because, you know, the screen scrolls, so you really have to know what's coming up next. You know, if you try to react to everything in the moment, you don't really have a lot of time. So, you know, I would definitely recommend practicing this level heavily, as I was saying, you know, until you can maybe beat it 2 or 3 times in a row, you know, starting with 4 lives, not having 9 lives like I have here. You know, that's not the way I practice it. I did it with the 4 lives. And I would do it several times in a row before I was satisfied. So that's why the practice takes long, because, you know, you're practicing a lot of the segments again and again and again. And then you're doing the whole levels like 3 times in a row, you know. And if you can't do it 3 times in a row, then you start over again and try to do it 3 times over again, you know what I mean? So you may be trying at it for a while. But that was kind of like my standard, is that I wanted to be able to do it. For a game this hard, I wanted to be able to do it 3 times in a row, and I think that was what I stuck to for this. You know, with the default lives, of course. So yeah. But, you know, you will get it down eventually. You have to, you know, keep practicing the level. And yeah, so what else can I really say about this? Not really much to say about this level. I mean, it's like I said, it's just a matter of knowing what's coming up. And you can go in those rings. The rings don't hurt you. It's just a ball. There's one spastic ass ball. I think it's at the end of this level or the end of the 6th level. You know, it's a hard one to dodge. I'm not sure if I dodge it successfully. But at this point, I'm still doing well. I still have 9 or more lives, so. You know, I was doing well for a while. Then I started fucking up later, but, you know, I still ended up completing it without wasting a continue, so that was fine. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't trying to do that on 1 credit or anything. I just wanted to beat the fucking game. And this was the first and only time that I completed the game. I never, after that I was done. I do want to play the Amiga version and beat that. You know, it seems a lot easier than this one. But I just haven't gotten around to messing around with that yet. There is a Genesis version of this game. I don't know if it was ever released, but it is on emulation. And it may be easier than this, but it's different. You know, there's a lot of differences in some of the levels. So you pretty much, you have to learn that version of the game. It doesn't really carry over. Like, what you learn here doesn't really carry over to the Genesis one. And I'm not sure how much it's going to carry over to the Amiga version. I don't know if the layout is similar on the Amiga version. But I think the Amiga version is a lot easier. It seems a lot slower from what I saw. Or it seemed a lot easier. I think I watched some videos. I don't know if I tried it. But I don't know if that's the spastic ball that I was thinking about. Might be. I'm not sure. I don't really remember because I've played it so long. But there's definitely some tricky shit. But see, this one is not nearly as hard as the 6th level, which is another shooter level. And that's the hardest one, and that's one of the hardest levels in the game, as I said. That and the final level are very hard. They're the hardest areas. And now you're going to have, now you got to beat this boss. You know, like I said, the bosses, none of them are actually hard, but this has a little tricky shit, like, I think I did something stupid here with one of the spikes. I mean, I think there's an easy way to not die on this part. But, you know, I guess I didn't practice that well enough to know exactly how to do that. But you don't have to die there. This part's very easy. I mean, you know, you just stay down there in that position and then you just come up and get a few shots and go back down. You know, very, very simple. A lot of these bosses have very simple patterns. What can be a little tricky about this guy is that, you know, how he moves. If you don't know which way he's going to move, sometimes you get hit by the ship. Which I think I fucked up again at the top because I didn't remember which way he moves. But it's always the same. He's always going to do the same movement. So, I mean, you know, it's just a matter of memorizing shit. If you don't want to, you know, if you don't want to fuck up, then you just got to memorize it. But I guess I didn't practice the bosses that much. I mean, because, you know, they're mostly pretty easy. I could have spent more time on the bosses, for sure. But, you know. And this, you know, you just move down. You don't want to move down too far, you'll die, but you'll hit into the ship and die. But you just move down far enough so that the ball comes up and hits into your bullets. You know, that's pretty much it. Yeah, and that's it. It's a pretty simple boss. I mean, the bosses are pretty much a joke for a game like this. Now, this is a harder level than the first level. It's in the same style. It's another walking level. Not from an overhead view, but, you know, side-scroll walking level. And this level, you have to really inch even more so than the... Now, the reason I ran through that earlier part is because I had invincibility, which lasts about 3 seconds. It's pretty fucking ridiculous. That's why this game really does seem sped up, because everything is like ultra spastic. You know, even those gems, look how fast those gems go up and down. It looks kind of like something's fucked up with the speed of the game. It's like fucking Turbo Edition Jim Power or some shit, you know? That's why it's so fucking hard, I think. But, yeah, so, you know, basically for this level, you're going to want to, like, inch again. You'll see I'm just creeping through the level, because honestly, in the walking levels, I really didn't have memorized, like, how many enemies there was and all that shit. Like, I didn't have to memorize it to that degree. I did have to memorize the fact that, you know, I have to remember how to play it, obviously, which is a very careful approach, and I do remember certain parts that I need to remember. But, you know, a lot of times I wouldn't know if there was 3 or 4 enemies that I had to shoot. I would just move very slow, and then when I saw that there wasn't any more coming, you know, But what the game does, though, you got to be careful, because sometimes you think there's no more enemies, and you move a little bit, and another enemy pops out and kills you. The game is very fucking sneaky with that kind of shit. So just be aware of that. You'll learn the hard way. You're not gonna get that far in the game without getting fucked over. So you'll see what I mean. And I don't recommend playing this game if you actually want to play, you know, a good game. I would only recommend playing it if you just want to beat a really hard game. I mean, it's totally beatable. It's fair. It's just not a good game in my opinion. I don't like it at all. But you know, there was kind of a charm for it for me, because beating it was a great feeling. So I got satisfaction from actually beating it, but I didn't really enjoy the process of practicing the game. It was very monotonous for me. I was getting really sick of it toward the end. I was like, fuck, man, I don't even want to play this anymore, you know. But yeah, I grinded it out for 6 days, and it was cool that I was able to beat it. You see, I used some bombs. You really don't want to waste bombs unless you're on like parts like this, which are kind of bullshitty with all these plants and shit. And you'll see some of the positioning I use. You know, you can totally use all the positioning and everything that you see in the video. It should work. You know, but you'll learn your own methods anyway when you're practicing this shit. You know, you'll definitely develop some of your own techniques. You know, you'll find what feels comfortable for your play style. But yeah, it's pretty, like I said, pretty basic. It's just hard because you have to move so fucking slow, and you know, I don't think there's any really hard like jumps or obstacles or anything like that in this level. I mean, that are like really, really hard. But stage 7 is another walking level like this, and it has tons of really hard obstacles and jumping segments. So those are going to really require a lot of, you know, specialized practice for those parts. You know, if you're not playing on an emulator, you can still practice this game, but it's going to be, you're not going to be able to do it as efficiently. You can use the stage select code, which you'll see on GameFAQs if you check that, and you can use that to start at the beginning of each stage with the default lives. So, you know, you could practice it that way if you want, but you're going to have to keep putting in the code. It's going to be more of a pain in the ass, and you're not going to be able to practice sections too easily. So, you know, I really recommend playing it on an emulator to save yourself the time, you know, because you're not going to want to spend, you know, a shitload of time with this if you don't have to. I think this part's a little tricky too. I probably didn't. I think I might have fucked this up. I don't even remember. I think it's not even that hard. I fucked up a lot of easy parts. So, yeah, I thought I fucked that up. I haven't watched my video in a while, but yeah, I just remember fucking that up. But yeah, so you're gonna really, you know, basically for this, you move really slow. Obviously, I should have practiced this shit. I don't even think I probably didn't even practice this part because I thought like I probably got it on the first time, and I thought, you know, it's not going to be a big deal. So I got lazy with that, and it shows. I mean, you know, the parts that I didn't practice, it shows because I fucked them up and wasted a lot of lives. I really fuck up on the 7th level, so, you know, stay tuned for some major fuck-ups later. One thing that pissed me off is on my, it was either my 2nd or 3rd attempt at the game. I got near the end of the game, but my fucking screensaver came on. I didn't have it set properly, and it fucked me up and got me killed, and then I had to end up starting the game over. So, you know, so I think I may have ended up, you know, it might have been the 3rd or 4th attempt. I wrote it down in the actual video. I posted how many attempts it took and all that. So if you look at my original video, you'll see that. I'm probably just going to copy and paste the same description, you know, in this video with commentary. So it'll have all the information in it. It's just been a while since I read my description and remember all the details. But yeah, so you're just going to basically like crawl your way through this level, constantly fire. And, I don't remember what the 5th level was. I think the 5th level may be the bonus stage. Actually, yeah, maybe. Which is... It's really easy. I mean, it may not be easy at first because the control's a little weird with turning the vehicle, but, you know, it won't take you much practice to get that part down, and then you should be able to rack up a bunch of lives on that level, you know. So yeah, here I am trying to get, you know, trying to turn around and get positioned right for this asshole here. The gems are completely useless. Don't waste your time collecting gems. I mean, there's no point of playing this game for points. You're not going to earn 1-ups or anything by getting gems. You know, you don't get point, you know, 1-ups from points in this game. So yeah, don't even waste your time. Whenever I get gems, it's accidental. I'm not trying to get them; they're just in my way. You do have to get the keys to open the little gates, though. You know that you do need to get. And you want to break open those other things that you see, because you know you get 1-ups and shit like that. So you do want to get stuff like that. But you know that's about it as far as items go. And of course, save your bombs for, you know, actual, you know, dangerous situations that you're not good at, because then you can, you know, use a bomb, and sometimes you can just, you don't even need to learn certain parts if you save up a bomb for it. You can just use that for certain parts. You know, it's not going to save you in every situation, but it could be useful for certain, if you have troublesome parts, you know, keep them in mind. You do get a lot of bombs throughout the game, so it's useful. So here I have 5 lives. You know, I could have been doing a lot better, but I died on some stupid shit. That one area, I think I wasted, I don't know if it was 3 lives or something like that. on that those platforms going up and down, and that spike pole going up and down in the middle. I fucked that up bad. But you can see there's leniency in the game, right? I mean, because despite fucking up bad on that area, I still have 5 lives left. So, you do get a nice amount of 1-ups. Because, you start with 4 lives, so I still have more lives than I would be starting with, So I'm still in decent shape. But 5 lives really isn't shit in this game because you just die so easily. That's why you see I'm just really crawling through the level. It's not that entertaining to watch. Definitely not a fucking speedrun, that's for sure. But, for me it was just about, beating the game. Anytime I'm trying to beat an extreme mode or a really hard game or any game in general, I'm just trying to beat it. I'm not trying to, do anything fancy or anything like that. I'm just doing the minimum to beat it. I'll exploit anything in the game as long as it's not like a game-breaking glitch like God of War 2 where you can swim through the walls. I would never try to do anything like that because that's really cheap to me. And I played through Titan mode on God of War 2 and I didn't even know about any exploits at that time. That was early on. And that was fucking brutal. I mean, that was the hardest single player, probably one of the hardest, maybe the hardest single player game that I played through. That was insane. That took me like a year of on and off play. I mean, that was just fucking brutal. You have to fight a boss for 15 minutes. And if you get hit once, you're dead pretty much. So, yeah, that was brutal. And the dual bogeys, the final bosses in Vanquish on God Hard mode, that was fucking insane. So there were some fucking insane moments. Vanquish as a whole, it had a few parts that were very fucking hard, but then it had that part at the end that was just fucking... It made everything else look easy, But the game as a whole... there's a lot of parts that are not that bad, so the game as a whole wasn't as bad as Titan, probably, because it just had that one part at the end that was disgustingly hard. But yeah, now I'm getting off on other topics. But, as far as 2D games go, this is one of the hardest I beat. Another super hard one is Metal Storm on Expert for Nintendo. There's an Expert mode, there's a password for it. If you want a challenge, try that shit. That's really fucking hard. I did a few levels on my channel, replaying a few levels, but I haven't gone through and beat the game again on Xbox because I didn't have capture devices when I beat it. I did capture level 3 2 years ago, but it's really grainy footage. I had someone else capture it for me using the emulator's movie creator, which is a pretty rough way to do it. But yeah, Metal Storm on Expert is ridiculous. Carniv for the arcade. The NES one is a joke compared to the arcade version of Carniv, which is disgustingly hard. I mean, it's not, I guess when you know what to do, it's not that fucking hard, but it feels disgusting when you don't know what to do, because it's like, the parts don't even make any fucking sense. Like, boss enemies just start stacking on top of each other. Like, you go up, you're going upstairs, and every step that you go up, another boss forms and starts attacking you. It's pretty ridiculous. The game does not make any sense. Definitely a funny game. The Ripper 999 on his channel, you can see his Carniv playthrough, and you can, you don't really get a taste for how ridiculous it is because, when you know what to do, it doesn't look that bad. But figuring it out was a bitch. Metal Storm is just fucking hard no matter what, even if you know what to do. Metal Storm is ridiculous on Expert. Very fucking hard. So that was as far as 2D games, that ranks up there for sure. But this game is definitely up at the top as far as the 2D games. But, Titan blows this shit away on God of War 2. I mean, that was a disgusting difficulty for me. And, I played through Ninja Gaiden Black's mission mode with 40 million points, world rank 19 at the time. And that was, over 600 hours. That was that was the most insane thing I've done with gaming, And I've done a few, I've played a few Ninja Gaiden Black videos recently on my channel, but, I haven't played in a long time, so I'm not nearly as good as I was. But I managed to beat a few of my old scores, which was cool, and I posted those up. But Ninja Gaiden Black, I guess that was the game that I played the most. If I had, one game that I really dedicated to, that was the game. But normally I don't dedicate myself heavily to one game. I'll beat the hardest mode of the game, but I won't really go beyond that, Like, I beat God Hand on hard recently, and that's pretty much it for me. I probably won't try to, do a no damage run, or, you know what I mean? I don't really do a lot of that kind of shit. I would like to explore that more. I did some one-credit runs for some arcade games. Easy ones, like Double Dragon is an easier one to do. Has some bullshit at the last level, but it's relatively, it's easy compared to a lot of other arcade games. Because you can exploit the elbow move. Yeah, so now I'm really going out on a fucking tangent here, right? But Yeah, the previous boss is really easy. That's just another one you have to practice. You know, you can see what I'm doing there. There's not much to explain about that. Now, this level is the bonus stage I was talking about. See, I got a 1-up here. And, you know, if you don't fuck up, you can get a lot of 1-ups. You know, it's just the control takes some getting used to. And you got to move pretty fast because the timer's not that forgiving. So that's the only tricky thing. But, you know, it's not bad. And you can get a lot of 1-ups once you get, you know, you want to practice this level and get good at it so that you can get all the 1-ups. Because you're going to want those fucking 1-ups. Because the next level is the extremely hard shooter level. The hardest shooter level, the 6th level. And, you know, you're going to want to have, you want to have a lot of lives for that shit. I mean, of course, you should have practiced it to the point where you can beat it with the 4 lives. But, you know, it's good to have extra lives because it's very easy to fuck up. And then right after that comes the hardest level in the game, the 7th level. So, you know, if you can do good on the 6th level, you can have some extra lives. Instead of starting the 7th level with the default 4 lives, you might be able to have like 6 or 7 lives or something like that. And that'll help out a lot. Because there's a lot of parts that, you know, you can just fuck up again and again and drain all your lives. It's very easy to do. You want to make sure you get those clocks because like, the time will kill you. But you see now I'm ending up with like a full stock of lives pretty much. So that's pretty much what you want to do. Luckily, the game gives you some points where, you know, some areas of the game where you can, you know, get your lives back and shit like that if you're doing well. So there is definitely some leniency with that shit. Yeah, I may do I may go over some of my other videos and add commentary, like my other playthroughs on some harder games. I don't really want to go through and do God Hand because that's like 40-something parts. I don't know if anybody would even watch that. But the God Hand on hard, that was, you know, that was a really cool one to do. If I had enough, you know, requests for it, my channel is so small now, but if people were really into it and they wanted to see it, I would do it. But, you know, I get very few views at this point, so, you know. I really enjoy putting the videos together, though, for the most part. I actually like making the videos, doing the commentary and all that shit, even if, you know, if people don't watch it. I mean, it's cool if even one person enjoys it. That's like a bonus, but I don't really expect anything with the shit. I mean, you know, I can't even make any money anyway until I have like 1,000 subscribers, you know, so I only have like, you know, like 42 now, so I'm not even, you know, that's not even really the reason I started the channel. It would be cool. It'd be nice to be able to, you know, make some extra money. It would be very cool, but, you know, the main reason I started it was I love the idea of doing like, you know, beating hard games and shit like that. I love the idea of really being able to capture that forever, you know, I think that's awesome, so I love that. And I wanted to cover some obscure shit, and I wanted to show some different views on some of these games because, you know, I have a lot of knowledge just based off of playing games for so long, since 1986. So, you know, I thought there's a lot of shit that I'd like to put out there. I definitely will. Yeah, now this level, this is, you know, this is one of the hardest levels in the game, along with the 7th level. So. This one you really need to memorize. Like those things that roll and shit, they kill you really fast. You know, you see I use a bomb there because it gets ridiculous with all this fucking thing. But yeah, there's not much room for not having this level memorized. You know. I found I was fucking up on this level, I think, so I had to go back and practice it again. Because, like, you know, if you don't, this is one you really have to have memorized. Because the screen moves, you know, you have no control over the scrolling of the screen. But yeah, you'll get it down. It's just a matter, you just got to keep playing it, keep practicing it. You know, if you're using save states, you have a huge advantage with practicing, you know, because you can just keep playing the levels over until you learn. So, you know, definitely use that to your advantage, and you can get good at the game and beat it. That guy can be a little tricky sometimes, but, you know, I fucked up there. Luckily, I got here with so many lives, you know. So, I mean, that was a huge help. And see, if you don't remember to pass through that guy, or, you know, go all the way in front. Also, you can stay up there and dodge those fire things. Instead of waiting for them to go up and down, you can go all the way to the top like you saw me do. You know, very easy way to do that. But yeah, for those guys with the long necks that pop up, you know, if you don't know to like go ahead of him immediately, it'll just pop up and kill you. So it's little things like that. You just really got to know your positioning and where you're going to move to, you know, ahead of time. And you know, it's just like, it's just repetitive. You know, you just got to keep playing until you get it like burned in your head, and then you'll get it. It's just, you know, it's just boring. You know, it's fucking boring. That's what burned me out on the game. I just got so far, because I don't like the game at all, and I got so fucking bored of practicing it. You know, because I don't have a lot of patience. I mean, I can make myself be patient. You know, that's how, you know, I play through a lot of really hard games and everything. And I can grind, but it's just like, at least Ninja Gaiden Black, as fucking brutal as that was, you know, it was an awesome game. So, you know, it wasn't always 100% fair with the shitty camera and everything, but I mean, you know, it was an amazing game. But this game, I don't like this game at all. So, you know, so I can't say I enjoyed this, but I got it done. You know, I wanted to beat it. That's all I really cared about. And get some one-ups in this level, so that's good. I'm still down to 5 lives, you know, so I definitely fucked up in a few parts. And you can see these shooter levels aren't short either, you know, so there's really a lot of opportunity for you to get fucked over in these levels. And then the 7th level may even be longer than this. So, you know, you're definitely going to have to do some learning of the levels for sure. And this guy's not hard. I mean, this is pretty basic. You don't want to obviously be down in that bottom area when he jumps forward, because that'll kill you, but there's not much to this. For this part, I did a risky move that I never even did in practice before. I just tried it and it worked. But you'll see, I actually put my back flush against the machine, see? It's pretty much like pixel perfect. If I moved back a little bit more, I would have died on that machine. So, you know, don't be deceived by that. Make sure you know, don't touch that. If you touch that machine too much, you will die. But I somehow was able to line up really well with that somehow. Which I shouldn't be trying to do stunts when, you know, when I didn't even practice it in the main game. I really shouldn't be trying to do little stunts. But for some reason, I just felt like doing that at the time, and it worked. So, you know, I just went with it. But yeah, there's not a lot of room for improvising in the game, so. Yeah, so now coming up, that's as far as I made it when I was young. I made it to that boss. I never beat that boss when I was young. But I did play the 7th level using a stage select code, so I would fuck with it with that. I tried it out, and it was fucking hard. So yeah, this level, you're not only going to have guys moving really fast trying to kill you. You know, you're going to have really hard obstacles and stuff for jumping segments and things like that. Like, look at the timing on shit like this, right? I mean, it's really fucking fast. So, the way you process this shit is by not trying to actually read it as you're seeing it. And what I mean by that is you got to get in a rhythm with the platforms, and the way to do that, you have to set points mentally. Like, wait for the, you know, it'll be something like wait for the platform to hit the bottom, and when you see it hit the bottom, then you jump, because you got to take into consideration the delay in the input, right? Like when you hit the button, there's going to be a delay while the guy jumps. So you're going to have to calculate that in your mind. So basically what you want, you're going to find points. Once you know these points, you'll be able to do it every time, but you have to, you know, you have to have a point. I think for this, it's like when the platform hits the bottom, start your jump, you know what I mean? Because that's when it's going to hit the bottom and come up really fast. And by the time you jump, you're going to meet the platform as it comes up. So yeah, it's bullshit like that, but that's what you got. That's the kind of shit you have to do when you got spastic platforms like in this game. So there's just little mental things you're gonna have to do like that, little tricks like that. And you're not actually timing it by just looking at it and timing it. You're setting points in your mind. Like when it hits the bottom, now I jump. You set rules like that, and you find the rules that work. And once you know what works, that's why you got to practice these parts a lot, some of them, because those weren't even the hard parts yet. But but those are the kind of things that you're going to have to deal with. Later you'll have longer segments and they'll be more spastic. But I mean that's the general. It's going to be the general idea. It's just going to be longer segments. See, there's a gap in these fireballs, so you have to pretty much start jumping early to get in there. Getting out, I think, is a little bit easier, but you have to get in there really fast. So you have to have a mental, a point set in your mind when you jump. Like when one of the fireballs travels to a certain point, then you start your jump pretty much. Is the kind of thing you're going to want to learn. And I don't remember the exact details of that because it's been so long since I played, but I remember the general idea, which is pretty much that's pretty much the way I did those parts. And you'll see I didn't there's some parts I did not have down at all, so I should have practiced them. But you'll see later I fuck up. I think I lose 4 lives on one part. And there's really no reason to die on there, I just got sloppy for some reason. I shouldn't have died on that shit. Here's another super easy mini-boss. These things are really easy. You don't even have to do anything for this. You just stay here. It can't hit you if you're all the way on the left. So, if you're not concerned about trying to do a speed run, just stay on the left and just keep shooting. And you will win. You just be doing it for a little while, but as you'll see, I'm not doing anything flashy in this playthrough. I just wanted to beat the fucking game. If I ever do want to refine my skill on a game, I'll first, of course, just beat the game any way I can the first time, and then, if I ever wanted to do something like a speed run or whatever, then I would just start refining my skill after I beat the game normally. But I don't try to do that on my first time through a game. I just do what's comfortable with my play style just to succeed. That's it. My only objective really is to beat the game. And I mean, I'll exploit bosses. I exploit games all the time. I really enjoy finding AI exploits and shit like that. I enjoy exploiting games. So that's definitely a part of how I play games. But if I was going to do something more fancy, I would have to spend a lot more time. And I had enough of this fucking game after 6 days. I was good. I was fucking good on Jim Power, man. I don't want to play anything like that. This part you just gotta be, you gotta just be a little patient. This is not hard. But what is sneaky is you see those little fucking bugs on the right. You better make sure, you wait a while and make sure you shot every one of those fuckers, because if you don't, it will pop out and kill you. See, there's one I think one of them is delayed, so that you think that you killed them all, and then when you move to the right, you get killed. So you gotta be, you just gotta be careful. But with these, you just wait for them to go up and just make sure you're running, immediately when they go back up. So just, figure out the timing in your mind for that, and just, do that. That's easy. I think this part might be a little tricky, but not bad. You want to wait till the platform, of course, bounces and settles down completely before jumping. And you have to be at the peak of the platform, on the other side. You have to wait for a few things to be in place before you make the jump, basically. You got to have a clear, a clear area. Like if the spike is in the way, it might kill you. There's a few things you have to wait for. Sometimes you have to, there's parts where you just have to wait for everything to be set up right. Like, the game makes you think, yeah, keep jumping, keep moving, but no, you have to wait for the perfect setup sometimes. Sometimes platforms won't line up exactly as you need them to, so you have to, you may have to wait a little while until you see a clear space to make the jump. So keep that in mind on some parts. It's not as fresh in my mind because, like I said, I beat this 2 years ago, and I'm just watching the video now and commenting on what I remember. I haven't even watched the video before making this commentary. I'm just watching it again now. So I'm trying to remember what I can. I would have done the commentary, right after beating the game, but I just didn't have the equipment, or I didn't know how to do it. Finally got a fucking microphone, so now I'll be doing a lot of commentary. Yeah, and just keep taking a level slow. That's all. You want to take it slow, not too slow. You see, I am running out of time here, so you don't want to be too fucking slow. But you'll know what you can get away with once you practice. Once you've gone through this level several times, you'll know what to expect. There's a lot of small bullshit that can kill you, and that's the stuff that'll, end up draining your lives, and you really don't want to die on stupid shit. Because there's plenty of hard parts, and it's a long level, so you really, so you can go back here and get the 1-up. You always want to get those, obviously. Use all the lives you can get. So, I'm in decent shape here with 7 lives, obviously. I haven't wasted a continue yet. So, things are going well so far, but it's about to go to shit. I think, relatively shortly it's gonna go bad. But somehow I do manage to pull it off. I think this might be, yeah, this part gave me a lot of fucking trouble, man. I should have practiced this shit. Because, this is fucking spastic with all this bullshit. Look how fucking spastic it is. I don't even think this shit is that hard if you know what to do. I think I was overcomplicating. I didn't understand it. And I didn't practice it enough. I was fucking, I probably beat it a few times and just got lazy with it, thought it would be easy. And see, now here I pay. I almost drained all my lives on this one fucking part. And I actually have drained all my lives on this part before in previous attempts. It's a very, very hard part, for me anyway, it was. I've even landed on that edge, and then of course the bugs would kill me, and I think it sends you back to the beginning of the platforms if that happens. Though I'm not 100% on that, it has been a while. But the game likes to send you way back. When it respawns you, it likes to send you back to the previous screen. Not always, though. It depends. If there was platforms, then it likes to send you back, it seems. I think this is a little tricky because, you got bullets moving around, too. But I don't think this is not too bad. There's a bat in there. There's a lot of bullshit moving around. A bullet, bats. Plus, the platforms are going kind of spastic. It's kind of annoying. But yeah, I guess that part's not that hard. But that one with the bouncing platforms and the fireball gave me a lot of tricks. I really fucked that up. And now I'm far into the level, but there's still, I still got to be careful. But, those spiders can't be killed, so you just gotta you just gotta wait for them and move when it's safe. They have little times when they'll just hesitate up there for maybe a second or two, and that's when you gotta move. You don't want to move you don't want to try to go through them when they're still bouncing up and down. Wait for them to do that little hesitation at the top portion. If they hesitate at the bottom, just wait. You don't want to try to go through them. Yeah, and this guy can be kind of annoying. You have to jump at the right time to avoid his tongue. So, I'm playing pretty shitty. I shouldn't even really been dying on that. But again, this is what I get for not practicing the bosses that much. I should have spent more time on some parts. But in the end, I was fine with it. Like I said, I ended up being successful beating the game, so that was fine with me. But I did waste lives on parts I shouldn't have. The final boss is also very easy, but not at first. You do have to do an exact timing with him, but once you know the timing, he's not hard. He's very easy. Plus, what I like to do for the final boss too is save up all my bombs. I try to save a lot of bombs, and then I unleash all the bombs. And then I think if you lose a life, you may get some more bombs if you lose a life, but I'm not even sure. I don't remember. But basically, yeah, you just repeat the pattern for the final boss. I don't remember exactly what it was, but then you use all your bombs and he'll go down pretty fast, so he's not bad. But you really want to make sure you practice the final boss a good amount, because you don't want to forget the patterns and forget all your muscle memory shit. Because you're gonna remember when you play this game after an hour or so and you get to the last boss, you're probably gonna be pretty fucking nervous, right? So that's where the muscle memory and really practicing and burning it in your brain comes in, right? Because a lot of times that I did shitty was because I got really nervous on these parts, right? Because I didn't practice them enough. I didn't have the muscle memory down good enough. So my mind wasn't able to overcome, that nervousness. Especially when I get towards the end of the game, even if it's not a hard game. A lot of times I fuck up at the end because I get really nervous, right? So That's why you really want to, you want to practice enough to where it becomes natural for you and you can do it without much thought. Your mind, I mean, if you play the game heavily, when your mind just kind of takes over and you can do something like effortlessly, you want to try to get, the harder parts to that point. That's the idea. You want to get them in your muscle memory to where you can just, pretty much do them without any thought, really, you know what I mean? As much as you can, anyway. You want to try to minimize, because, if you get nervous, you're not going to have your usual skill. Your skill's going to go to fucking shit. So you got to prepare for that. You got to consider that you're not going to be in the same state of mind as you are when you're relaxing, practicing the game, and you can practice as many times as you want with save states. But that's not going to be the case when you actually spend an hour on the game and you're nervous, This part you pretty much just run through. That's it. That's the end of the level. So all that's left now is the final boss, which I don't remember the exact pattern, but we'll see it here. It did take me some practice. Like, it wasn't easy for me right away, but once you know it, it's very easy. It's like a very simple pattern, but I just, for some reason, I didn't understand it right away, but it's easy. So you see, I still have 3 lives at this point. I think I may die once on this guy. I used all my bombs already, that speeds it up. But he just does the same shit over again and again. You don't need your bombs, He'll do the same fucking shit. You just, I think, jump on that one fireball. I think that's the only one you have to jump for if you're on the end of the screen. I believe that was the idea. Yeah, and that's it. That ends the game. So I think I pretty much covered everything. There's not really much else to cover, I will try to do a tutorial video that shows a full game being practiced. I think I'll try to do that at some point. I may do commentary for my Double Dragon 1 credit run, which is not really that much to explain, but it'd be kind of cool to do a commentary. It's a short game. And maybe I can do a commentary on Hagane for Super Nintendo. That was kind of a challenging game. Not nearly as hard as this or anything, but it's on the upper moderate. I don't know if I'd really call it hard. It's got some hard parts, though. It is kind of hard towards the end. But overall, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, this is a hard fucking game, so don't be discouraged. Just keep practicing and you'll get it. And stay tuned for lots of future commentary. I'll be doing a lot.